Hello everyone, today's poem is Xiaoya, 宾之初宴, a Xiaoya poem from the Book of Songs. This poem is somewhat special. It's the third longest poem in Xiaoya. So, as we all know, the poems in Xiaoya is much more longer than those poems in the States Wind, and thus this poem is one of the few very long poems in the Book of Songs among the 300 poems. Normally I won't illustrate such a long poem for foreigners, but this one is one of the few poems talked about a very special events, shooting games. The shooting is one of the 6 skills that a noble kid should master, should learn of. According to the code of conduct of Zhou, there are 6 skills: 礼乐射御书数. So, very generally speaking, the courtesy, the rituals, 乐, the Book of Songs, the music instruments, 射, shooting, and 御, driving chariot, and 书 means the history books, and today we call it 尚书. It might be part of the history book for the Zhou kids, and today most of us believe that 尚书 is the real history book in the ancient time, in the Zhou dynasty, even it was not a full version left it to us. The 6th skill is 数, which means mathematics. Among all the 6 skills, shooting and driving chariot is the most important 2 skills. We have seen so many poems in the Book of Songs talking about chariot, how magnificent the chariot was, how skillful the driver was, and what a pity that there's very few poems described about the shooting, and this poem is a very good example to tell us how important the shooting means for the Zhou people, especially for those lords, for those noble persons, because to defend their country, to win a war with other states, is the primary duty for these people. The shooting is just like the missiles for today. The chariot is just like the carriers on the sea as today. So these 2 things is the most important skill and power for Zhou people. Though it was not mentioned in this poem, but very likely this event happened at a very special place, Piyong. Just like the picture, it's surrounded, a small island surrounded by the water, and in the center the architect was square, and the surrounded water is in the shape of a circle, and this resembles that the heaven was around and the earth was square. So that's the philosophy or the idea of the Zhou people, and that's how they recognize the universe. And this place served as a purpose place to pray, to make offering, to sacrifice to their ancestors and heavens, and to hold the shooting games, and by hold the shooting game as a way to treat their guest. So this is what this poem about. The Zhou people, very likely the king of Zhou, he was treating his guest from far away, and they hold big dinings. They pray to make offering to their ancestors and heavens, and also they hold shooting games. So there's a lot of things happened in this event, and most importantly, in the normal day, this place served as the university for the noble person. And in the States, there was also schools, but they have a different name. Panchi and Piyong could be only used or called in the capital under the rule of the king. So this is the place for the highest level of noble kids and highest level of officers, and they could send their kids to attend this university to learn all the 6 skills. If you have the chance to visit Beijing, you can pay a visit to a place, Guozijian. This is the royal university in the Qing dynasty, and it has an architect named as Piyong. And this is the tradition from the Zhou dynasty. Anyhow, the architect, the building is far from the very original building in the Zhou dynasty. In reality, nobody knows exactly how the real building, the details of it. We just take this as our very original root of the royal university. From this poem, we can also feel how important the shooting skill was for the Zhou people, because the result of the shooting game is the baseline how to reward the attendees with title, with knighthood, with wealth, with land. So if you want win more things or win a higher title, knighthood, you should be a very, very good shooter. Okay, let's get to the poem. There are total 5 paragraphs in this poem, and I will go through the first 2 paragraphs in the part 1 video, and then in the next video, the part 2 video, I will finish the rest 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1. 宾之初宴，左右之治. At the very beginning of the big dinner with all my guests, the left line and the right line, they are all in very well order. So this is looking through the eyes of the king. So the king was sitting in the center at a very high place, and on his left, on his right is all the guests line up downward, and they are in a order per their knighthood level, per their titles. So the most senior noble persons or officers are more close to the king, and the junior people are at the far end of the line, at the end of the line. 边斗有处，萧何为吕. So this is sort of we call it in 互文. So if in the normal way, you should say 边斗 and 萧何有处为吕. So 边斗 is the plate to hold the food. 边 is one kind of the plate. 斗 is another kind of plate. And the dough is for the sauce. The sauce of meat, sauce of fruit, sauce of beans. And the 边 is for the nuts and the fruits. So 小 is the sauce. 和 is the nuts. 有处 means it's all this plate. So you can see from the picture, this plate is with a high stick. So many plates of this type together made it looks like groups of grass and make them looks like soldiers of troops. So it basically means so many plates with so many type of foods. 处 is a wild grass, and 旅 means the troop. Okay, the next sentence. 酒既何止，饮酒恐歇. The wine was ready, and it's mild, and it's so nice. The flavor is so nice, and everybody together, we all drink. 钟鼓鸡射，举筹议议. The bell and drum was set up, and all the people, we are drinking to each other, back and forth, one by one. 举 take a toast. 筹 means to toast back. 议议 means one by one. It's a long word of 议议. Okay, the next sentence. 大侯嵇抗，公事私章. So the big target was set up, and the bow and arrow just was put open. So this actually is a snapshot. So all the sentence above is a snapshot. It's a long procedure actually. So at the very beginning of the dinner, so they set up accordingly in two lines beside the king, the left line, the right line, and then all kinds of food was served. Many sauces, many nuts was served. It's just like a bunch of grasses. It's like the soldiers in the armies. All the vessels is like the soldier in the armies. So many, and the wine was well prepared. And then so they have a toast, one or several round toast, one by one. And at the same time, the shooting game was preparing alongside. So the drum and bell is for the shooting game. It's use the bell and the drum to keep the pace when they shooting, or order the pace when they shooting. So the preparation for the shooting game and the drinking, the dinner, was going on side by side. The drinking was indoor, and the shooting very likely is outdoors. So the bell and drum was set up over there outdoor, and the target was put up already, and 公诗私章. So this is some of the very abstract for us, but I think it's very, very clear snapshot for the Zhou people, because the procedure is very well known by the Zhou people. The procedure is like this. to set up the bell and drum and set up the target, and then a figure like MC, a master of the ceremony, he will shoot the first several arrows to show to the attendees how to shoot and to show them the setup and the environments. And then the attendees will be coupled one by one. So every turn there's two people, they shoot together. So of course there's very likely there's two targets ahead. The two people shoot together and competing. And then the next turn another two person came up, and then they shoot together at the pace of the bell and drum. So the shooting game is just two teams or many teams competing each other. Each turn, two people came out and compete each other. You can see from this picture the two people under the tent, they are the people who are about shooting, and the man aside pillar that very likely he is the master of this ceremony, and then the people after him in the lines are the people who would shoot afterwards. So you can see in the following sentence is about this procedure. 射夫祭同，献而发功。射夫 the shooters they are coupled, which means the two people was selected and they are assigned to the place to shoot. 祭同 means the two person was coupled. 献而发功 so they shoot their arrows. 发彼有地，以其耳决 so shoot to that target and to ask for your knighthood. 地 the target is different from whole. So whole refers to the whole thing. Just look at the picture. It refers to the whole thing. The target is the circle, small circle in the center. When they're shooting, there's normally three results. The arrow is not on that big target made of leather, and or the arrow was on that big target but not on the circle, the D, or the best result is the arrow was on within the small circle, 发彼有地. So that's the real target. And if you are a good shooter, you will win your reward of land, of wealth, of your knighthood, of your title. So this is the last sentence. 以其耳决 is to pray, to ask for your reward. 决 is in reality is a vessel for the wine drinking, but it's identical or alternative term for the knighthood, for the title. The first paragraph actually gave us very few snapshots about the initial dinner, 宾之初宴, the very beginning of the dinner, with several toasts, and then it's some snapshots about the shooting games. It's a very long and complex process. Anyhow, in this poem, it's just several snapshots because this could be a very, very familiar process for the Zhou people. So they this poem only picks some of the very highlighted moments, and which will remind the Zhou people of the very happy and very high time in that shooting game. So that's quite enough for the Zhou people, but for us, it's a bit complicated or sometimes very confusing. Okay, that's the first paragraph. Okay, the second paragraph. 乐舞声鼓，乐伎合奏. The music started, and the dancers danced, and after a while, when the music finally was finished. 乐舞 is a kind of dance with the musical instrument in his hand. The musical instrument was 乐, is sort of the flute, and 声鼓 is two type of musical instrument. 声 is sort of the flute, 鼓 is drum. Basically, there could be many musical instruments, but this is a poem, so it's always describe about the highlight, and the real situation actually we are not quite sure about, but we from the sentence we know at least 3 musical instruments there, and it's ensemble. It's a lot of the musical instruments played together, and finally after the music, the dance, it ended, and then entered to a next steps. 征看列祖，以洽百里. So we we entertained all our ancestors, and that's for the code of conduct to compliance to the rituals. 征 we have learned this character many times, so it's to use the fire to burn the meat, all kinds of meat, and let the smell, the flavors to go up. So in this way, the Zhou people believe their ancestors in heaven will smell those flavors, and which means they enjoyed, they have those offerings they made, the beef, the lamb, the meat, the fish, all kinds of things. Kan actually we are not quite sure about this meaning, and very likely I think it means to use the music to entertain their ancestors. 以洽 means to compliance, to accordance with 100 codes of conduct, which means we compliant to all the codes of conduct in this ceremony, to pray to our ancestors, to make sacrifice to our ancestors. So we can see it's a very, very complicated event. It started with drinking, with toast, and then with shooting games. The shooting games is for competing, the two teams to competing each other, and finally they decided how the reward was split, was rewarded, and then they have a moment of music and dance, and then they do their ceremonies, the grand ceremony, to make sacrifice, to make offering to their ancestors. So it's very complicated, but anyhow, there's all kinds of explanations to the code of conduct. But actually, the Zhou, the book Zhou, the code of conduct of Zhou, is not very, very accurate, because it was written in the late East Zhou dynasty, at the time that a lot of things actually has lost. So that book actually has referenced a lot from the Book of Songs, and which also means even in the people 2000 years before, they believe the things in the Book of Songs are very, very real. Okay, the next sentence. 百里既至，有任有邻. So all the 100 code of conducts rituals has been finished, and there is something. So the hard thing is the puzzle is the character Ren and Lin. So someone said Ren is happy. Lin refers to the king, or Ren refers to all the attendees, the noble person, the high-ranking officers. But well, I don't agree with that explanation at all. Anyhow, I don't have an idea what it is. The very possible explanation for Ren is witch. So in the very, very ancient literature, Ren is always a female witch, and Lin, the forest, the woods. So it's hard to explain, just let it be. So they have finished all the rituals, all their ceremonies to their ancestors. The next sentence, 刺耳唇骨，子孙甚战. The ancestors reward everybody with great fortune, with good luck, and everybody was so happy. 子孙, the son, and grandsons, the descendants. So this is respectively to the ancestors. Basically, it refers all the attendees, including the king, because the king and all the attendees are the descendants of their ancestors, the Zhou ancestors. The above is the general explanations through the history, but this doesn't fit well to the history or the archaeology today. The Zhou people are very pragmatism, very real people. They don't give some virtual luck, virtual fortunes to others. They gave real things. So one of the bronze vessel, Mai Fangzun, has a quite similar events. The king with one of the stage lord, they hold a big dinner and then shooting games. But this shooting game is a little different from this poem. It's the real shooting games. They take a boat and shoot the big wild birds around. So remember the place I just introduced at the very beginning, Biyong. So it's a place surrounded by water. So that's the place. And the script on this bronze vessel confirmed this event happens in the place of Piyong. And then because the guest, the stage lord, has a very, very good shooting results, the king rewarded him with 200 families, chariots, and other wealth, real wealth. So it's not some of the very virtual good fortunes, good lucks. It's real assets, real wealth. When you had a big fortune from the king, would you feel happy? Of course. So the following sentence is all about the enjoyment and the celebrations of the rewarding. 其战跃跃，各奏耳能。They feel so happy, so they start to play the music again. Each of them played the music so hard with their best capabilities. 各奏 each of them play the music. 耳能 so at their best capabilities. 宾仔手球，世人入右。The guest finally stand up and hands in hands, and they go back to indoor. So this actually tells us very clearly when they at the very beginning of the dinner they are indoor, and then they came out, have the shooting game, have the ceremony, and play the music and dance. And then after all the rewarding by the kings, they enjoyed a little bit with the dance and music, and then they stand up, hands in hands. So they are all brothers. They share the same family names. They came back to the big room again. 左比康爵，以奏耳时。So let's have a toast with the nice wine, and let's celebrate our best time. 酌 drink, toast. 康 is today it refers to the shell of the grain, but in the time of Zhou dynasty it's equivalent to the grain, or in Chinese 谷. So the very, very important character 谷. So 谷 always refers to the life, to the wealth, to the something most essential, most important, and the most beautiful, the best things of our life. So 康爵 here actually is represents a very positive, very happy toast, as well as his knighthood. The second paragraph is still made of several highlights or several snapshots. The real process actually is a very long and complicated process, rituals. The first thing first, they dance and play music, and with all the music, with all the food, they make their offering, sacrifice to their ancestors to complete all the rituals by the code of conduct. And then the king reward the winners with real assets, with real wealth, and with these rewarding, everybody feel so happy, so they turn back, play music, maybe sing songs, and immediately they feel the music, the songs is not enough to express their happiness. They stand up, hands in hands, and go back indoor, where the diner was held, and they start to drink again to celebrate this best day, this best time. Okay, that's for today. It's a very, very long poem, but it gave us some of the very, very highlights, happy moments of the Zhou people. And let's see what happens in the second half, the next 3 paragraphs. Bye bye for today.